You do not speak Korean but you are crying to a Korean ballad. You do not understand Spanish, but that reggaeton track makes you feel something specific and intense. You cannot translate the Japanese lyrics, but the song still hits you emotionally. This is one of the most interesting things about music as a medium. It crosses language barriers in ways that almost nothing else can. But the question is, what exactly is crossing and what is getting left behind? When you listen to music in a language you do not understand, the lyrics become pure sound. You are not processing semantic, meaning you are processing phonetics, rhythm, tone, melody. The emotional content has to come through channels other than literal comprehension, and somehow it still works. People all over the world connect deeply with songs and languages they do not speak. This suggests that emotional communication in music operates partly, or maybe mostly, independent of linguistic meaning. Linguists distinguish between the semantic content of language, what the words literally mean, and the pragmatic or prosodic features, how those words are delivered, tone of voice, rhythm, stress, intonation. When you do not understand a language, you lose access to semantics, but you still receive all the prosodic information. And prosody carries a huge amount of emotional data. Even in spoken language, you can often tell if someone is angry or sad or excited in a foreign language, just from how they sound before you know what they are saying. Music amplifies this because musical elements like melody, harmony, and rhythm are already doing emotional work independent of words. A minor key sounds melancholic across cultures. A driving beat creates energy. A slow tempo with sparse instrumentation feels intimate. These are not universal laws, but they are widespread enough that music can communicate emotional textures without relying on semantic meaning. But something interesting happens when you do understand the language. Suddenly, you have access to a whole additional layer of meaning. The lyrics are not just sounds anymore. They are ideas, images, narratives, specific emotional statements, and this changes the listening experience. Sometimes in ways that enhance the emotion, sometimes in ways that complicate or even undermine it. Take a K-pop song with lyrics about heartbreak sung in Korean by a vocalist with incredible emotional delivery. A non-Korean speaker hears the pain in the voice, the aching melody, the production choices that emphasize vulnerability. They construct an emotional narrative from these elements. They feel the heartbreak, even without accessing the specific words. A Korean speaker hears all of that, plus the actual story being told, the specific metaphors, the cultural references, the linguistic choices that add layers of meaning. Neither experience is more authentic, both are real, but they are different. The non-Korean speaker is having a more abstract or universal emotional experience. The feeling of heartbreak is communicated through pure musical and vocal expression. The Korean speaker is having a more specific and contextualized experience. This particular kind of heartbreak, described in this particular way using these cultural and linguistic tools. This gets complicated with translation because translation always involves choices and losses. You can translate the literal meaning of lyrics, but you often cannot preserve the rhythm, the rhyme scheme, the wordplay, the cultural connotations. A line that is devastatingly clever in Korean might sound clunky or generic when translated to English. Preserving semantic meaning often requires sacrificing poetic effect, but non-understanding can also create a kind of freedom. When you do not know what the lyrics literally say, you are free to project your own meaning onto the song. You construct your own narrative from the emotional cues. The music provides. This is why people sometimes prefer songs in languages they do not understand. The ambiguity allows the song to be whatever they need it to be. The moment they read a translation and discover what the song is actually about, it can feel like a loss of that personal meaning they had constructed. There is also something about phonetics independent of meaning. Certain languages have sonic qualities that make them work differently in music. Korean has a rhythmic quality and a specific vowel structure that creates certain effects. Spanish has different phonetic properties that lend themselves to different musical approaches. The actual sounds of the language, not the meanings, shape how the music can work. Singers also use language as texture, sometimes prioritizing how words sound over what they mean. You hear this in a lot of contemporary pop, where English words get chosen partly for their phonetic qualities, how they sit in the melody, how they feel in the mouth. Even native English speakers sometimes do not catch all the lyrics on first listen, because the words are functioning more as vocal sounds than as semantic carriers. This raises questions about what we mean when we say we understand a song. If you grasp the emotional core through musical and prosodic cues, but do not know the literal meaning of the words, do you understand it? If you can translate every word, but miss the cultural context and emotional nuance, do you understand it? Understanding might not be a binary, but a spectrum with different types of access to different layers of meaning. Some artists explicitly play with this multilingual dimension, mixing languages within songs or using their non-native language in ways that highlight the gap between sound and meaning. When a K-pop group switches from Korean to English in a chorus, they are not just translating, they are creating a different sonic and emotional texture. The English might be more familiar to international fans, but it also sounds different, operates differently in the song. But the recent global success of music in Korean, Spanish, and other languages is shifting this dynamic. Non-English music is crossing borders more successfully than ever, and audiences are getting more comfortable engaging with lyrics. They do not understand this is partly because streaming platforms make all music equally accessible, but it is also a cultural shift. Younger listeners seem less bothered by language barriers than previous generations. This might relate to how people consume music now. If you are discovering songs through short-form video platforms, you are often encountering music as soundtrack to visual content, not as standalone lyrical statement. The language of the lyrics matters less, because you are not primarily engaging with them as language. You are engaging with the overall vibe, the sonic texture, how it works with the video. There is also something democratizing about music that works across language barriers. It creates spaces where people from radically different linguistic and cultural backgrounds can share an experience. Yes, they might be having different experiences of the same song, but they are still connecting over it, still feeling something together. This is rare in our globalized but still deeply divided world. The question of whether you can truly feel a song without understanding the language might be the wrong question. The better question is, what kind of feeling is possible, and how does it differ from the feeling you get when you do understand? Maybe the feeling is less specific, less tied to particular narratives and images, but more open, more about pure effect. Maybe it is a different but equally valid way of connecting with music. Language is meaning, but music operates partly outside of language, in the realm of sound, emotion, rhythm, body. You can understand every word of a song and still not feel it. You can understand nothing and be moved to tears. The linguistic meaning is one channel, but not the only one, and maybe not even always the most important one. What seems clear is that music is doing something more complex than simply delivering semantic content through a pleasant sonic package. The sound is not just decoration for the meaning. The sound is generating its own meanings and emotions that can work with or against or independent of whatever the words are. Saying this is why instrumental music can be so emotionally powerful, why a melody can make you cry, why rhythm can make you move without any lyrics at all. When you listen to music in a language you do not understand, you are accessing this non-linguistic dimension more directly. You are not distracted by semantic meaning. You are experiencing the music more purely as organized sound with all its emotional and physical effects. This does not mean you are getting the complete picture, but you are getting something real. And when you do understand the language, you gain access to additional layers, but you also might lose some of that pure sonic experience. Once you know what the words mean, you cannot unhear them. The meaning shapes how you process the sound itself. This is why songs sometimes lose their magic when you finally look up the lyrics. Music is flexible enough to work both ways, to communicate across the language barrier, and to reward deeper linguistic understanding. It can be universal and specific simultaneously. This flexibility is part of what makes music such a powerful form of human expression. Subscriptions and likes are a huge help in building this channel.